She entered the bakery with timid eyes and worn-out shoes. She was only 8 years old, but carried in her gaze the weight of a life that seemed to have already been lived too much. The cold wind of that Monday morning blew fiercely through the streets of Paraisopolis. The sun barely dared to show itself. Clara pulled the old coat she had inherited from some donation years ago, trying to hide how much her little body was trembling. The smell of fresh bread was almost a relief, but what she wanted wasn't for herself. She walked to the counter with hesitant steps and stood on tiptoes. "Miss," her voice came out almost as a whisper, "do you have milk and French bread?" The clerk, in a hurry, answered without looking, "Yes, dear. How much do you want?" Clara took a deep breath, looked back as if to make sure no one was listening. Then she said, "It's just that I don't have money right now, but it's for my little sister. She has a fever. We haven't had anything to eat since yesterday. Can you let me pay another day?" The woman hesitated to say no. After all, how many similar promises had already been made there? But before she could respond, a deep voice interrupted, "I'll pay." Everyone turned. At the bakery door stood a man in an expensive suit and impeccable appearance, observing the scene closely. It was Leandro Resende, a businessman known as the owner of one of the largest supermarket chains in the country. He was just passing by. His car had broken down at the corner, and he decided to wait inside the bakery while his driver fixed it. Clara froze. She didn't know who he was. She only knew that the man was looking at her with a strange mixture of surprise and pain. "I said I'll pay," Leandro repeated, approaching. "And not just the bread and milk. Pick more things, little one. Take fruits, juice, everything your sister needs." Clara was speechless. The clerk was too. Leandro grabbed a bag and began filling it with food. "What's your name?" he asked, crouching to her level. "Clara," she replied with a trembling voice. "And where is your sister?" "She's at home with a fever. My mom left early to look for work. We don't have anything left, sir." Leandro was silent for a moment and said, "As soon as the car is ready, you'll take me to your house." Clara hesitated, but then nodded. Leandro didn't know why, but there was something about that girl that made him feel something old inside him, a memory, perhaps a forgotten pain. While they waited, he bought her a chocolate cake with hot chocolate. Clara's house was a small wooden shack on the hilltop. Inside, her younger sister slept on a thin mattress, sweating heavily. The place was damp, with leaks and a musty smell. Leandro stood still upon entering. It was as if he was looking into the past, into himself, into his childhood hidden and buried under years of wealth. Clara took care of her sister with what little she had. The mother, Juliana, arrived minutes later, startled to see a stranger there. "Who is this man? What is he doing here?" she asked, protecting her daughters. "My name is Leandro. Your daughter was asking for credit. I decided to help." Juliana, embarrassed, lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. I never wanted her to do that. But I couldn't find anything today. I have nothing left to offer them." Leandro gestured kindly, inviting her to sit. "What's your name?" "Juliana," she answered with a choked voice. "Juliana, I met a woman like you," Leandro said, his eyes lost in memories. "My mother, she fought alone, cried silently, until one day she disappeared from my life." The words hung heavy in the air. Juliana didn't respond. Clara squeezed her mother's hand. Leandro took a deep breath. "I won't let your daughters go through what I went through. If you accept, I want to help. Take the little one to the hospital, give you a job, improve this place." Juliana couldn't hold back anymore. She cried, not from sadness, but from relief. She cried because someone finally cared, and between sobs and fears, she said yes. The next day, early in the morning, Leandro returned with a private car. Clara sat carefully in the back seat, holding her mother's hand tightly. In her lap, little Sophia whimpered weakly, worn down by fever. The ride to the hospital was silent, filled with tension. Juliana tried to hold back her tears, fearing the worst. She had faced many waiting rooms and indifferent looks. She knew what it was like to be invisible to the system. But this time, everything was different. Thanks to Leandro's influence, Sophia was seen immediately. Doctors rushed. Tests were done. The 4 was applied quickly. After the evaluation, the doctor approached with a calmer expression. She has a strong viral infection, aggravated by malnutrition. But she arrived in time. She will get better with treatment. Juliana hugged her daughter tightly, as if wanting to protect her from all the world's pain. Leandro put his hand on her shoulder, firm, silent, present. They stayed at the hospital until late afternoon. When they returned home, Sophia slept deeply, her face calm, the first peaceful night in days. That very night, a new surprise arrived. Leandro sent a brand new crib, warm blankets, clean clothes, and a huge basket of food. Juliana looked at all of it with tired tears and smiles. Deep inside, she began to accept the idea that something was finally changing. In the following days, Leandro hired a team of builders. The small house was gaining new life. New plumbing, glass windows, a modest porch. They installed a tiled floor, painted the walls, installed an electric shower. In the girls' room, there was even a bookshelf full of children's books. Juliana silently watched everything, still in disbelief. Sometimes she went out to buy bread, and when she returned, she found yet another change. A modern refrigerator, a new stove, light curtains on the windows. It was as if life was suddenly apologizing for so many years of neglect. But what surprised Juliana the most wasn't the renovation, it was Leandro. He showed up every day, not just to supervise. He sat on the floor with Clara and Sophia, taught games, told stories, brought fresh fruit. He read to the girls before leaving, like an improvised father, but full of affection. Juliana, little by little, began to wait for him, even if she didn't admit it to herself. There was something about that man that unsettled her. It wasn't just a gesture of help. It was the attentive look, the respect, the care. Leandro didn't treat her daughters as a burden. He treated them like treasures. One afternoon, while Clara colored drawings on the living room floor, Leandro arrived with a box of chocolates. "You've done so much for us," Juliana said, looking away. "I don't even know how to thank you." "I don't expect anything in return," he replied. "But if you really want to thank me, accept an invitation to dinner. Just the 2 of us." Juliana was surprised, her eyes wide open. She hesitated for a moment, but then a shy smile appeared. "I accept." Leandro chose a simple restaurant, no ostentation. He wanted that meeting to be about her, about the woman who fought alone with her daughters. During dinner, Juliana told her story with tears in her voice. The abandonment by the girl's father, nights selling sweets, washing clothes in the street, times she went hungry to ensure they had food. Leandro listened silently, eyes watery, understanding every sacrifice. When she finished, he gently held her hand and said, "You're the strongest woman I've ever met." She smiled, embarrassed, but for the first time felt truly seen, not as a fallen woman, but as someone who had overcome. Weeks passed, and Juliana began working at Leandro's company. With dedication and intelligence, she gained respect and trust. The woman who once feared even asking for help now presented reports, gave opinions at meetings, and organized foundation events. Leandro watched this transformation with growing pride. But it wasn't just admiration. There was something more, a silent affection, a bond that was built with every glance, every gesture, something that said more than words ever could. One Saturday morning, while watching Clara play in the backyard with her little sister, Leandro turned to Juliana and spoke sincerely. "I know life has never been easy for you, and that you might be afraid to dream again. But I don't want you to dream. I want you to live with me." She looked at him, surprised. "Leandro, I fell in love with you. With your strength, your sweetness, your girls. I want to be part of your family, not as a benefactor, but as a man who loves you all." Juliana cried, but this time it was a different kind of cry. A cry of love, hope, and new beginnings. "Yes," she whispered. "I accept." Months later, a simple ceremony took place in that same backyard that was once a shack. Now there were flowers, soft music, and many smiles. Clara was the maid of honor. Sophia ran around in a white dress, throwing petals. Juliana walked to Leandro, wearing a simple but radiant dress. She was no longer the woman who asked for help with lowered eyes. She was a queen. He was no longer a man hiding his pain behind money. At the altar, Leandro held her hands firmly. "You saved me, Juliana. When I thought I was saving you, it was I who was being healed." Applause mixed with tears from everyone. Even the neighbors, who witnessed that transformation, cried as if they were part of that story, because they were. Because everyone knew what it meant to see a little girl asking for credit, and in the end, gain a family, a life, a future, and above all, love. Do you believe a simple act of kindness can change destinies? If this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment. Every heart deserves a new beginning. And never forget, true change starts when we open our hearts to others.